Hello my dear friends and welcome to my channel. My name is Barbara and today we're going to be going over a deeper look at Scorpio energy. So this video is for you if you have maybe one Scorpio placement, maybe you have a Scorpio stellium, maybe you have just an interest in understanding how Scorpio energy works overall. So welcome as well. Welcome to everyone who is interested in this video. Now basically the way we're going to be breaking down the Scorpio energy is to understand it a little bit better. We're going to be looking at all of the houses of the particular energy. So we're going to be looking at Scorpio as an energy. Now, you guys can apply this to whatever placement you guys have the Scorpio energy operating through. Let's say it's in your sun. All of this is going to apply to the sun energy. Let's say it's in your moon. All of this is going to apply to your moon energy. Now, let's say it's one of the generational planets. Well, it might not necessarily affect you as much because with the generational planets, the sign always affects the overall generation more than it affects you. It affects you because you're a part of that generation. But the further out we go, it's more generational. But you guys can still apply it to that particular area as well. And you guys can do this with absolutely any other sign to understand how and why that sign is operating the way that it is. So if we look at Scorpio energy, just Scorpio as a sign. So if we look at Scorpio as the first house energy, so first house of Scorpio is going to be Scorpio. When we look at the next energy here, the second house of Scorpio energy is going to be Sagittarius. So a lot of the time, Scorpio individuals can make money through Sagittarius types of things. And these are going to be things that they also find value in toward themselves and their own personal sense of value. So what is this? It's going to be the higher minds, higher learning, philosophies, theologies, esoteric types of things, mysticism, anything to do with the higher mind and the higher learning. You guys are going to find value in that. You guys might create a lot of your identity through this because it is that second house energy. A lot of your own personal sense of self-worth could be created through this. And now in turn, you guys could create money through Sagittarius types of things. Now Sagittarius is also going to be freedom, for example. So freedom on all the levels. You guys are seeking this and trying to maybe create some sort of financial freedom type of situation for you guys, some sort of way you guys can create income while being free at the same time. So that's Scorpio energy when we look at the second house of Scorpio as Sagittarius. When we look at the third house of Scorpio energy, so this is still looking at Scorpio as an energy. This isn't any of the particular placements. You guys can always apply this to the placements to see how that placement is going to be operating. I'll give a little bit more information on that toward the end of the video. Just for now, we're going to be going over the general idea here of how the energy is operating. So the third house of Scorpio is going to be Capricorn. Okay, so we're kind of doing like an inception thing here. We're looking at the sign and we're going within the sign to actually understand it a little bit better. So the third house of Scorpio is going to be Capricorn. This is how a Scorpio is going to communicate how they think and how they express themselves as well. So Scorpio energy, anywhere you guys have it in your natal chart, you are thinking now like a Capricorn, thinking about the money, the wealth, the gains. How can you guys achieve the higher status in this lifetime? How can you guys get those gains? This is why Scorpio can also be connected to money and wealth and finances as well, because you guys are thinking in this particular way. Within the Scorpio energy, we have the third house of Scorpio as Capricorn. You guys think like a Capricorn. You guys can be very practical. You guys can be very logical. For example, this could be also how you guys communicate. Very straight and to the point, very concise, not wasting time. Scorpio does not like to have their time wasted, and this is because of that third house energy operating within the Scorpio as a Capricorn. So you guys think and express and communicate how a Capricorn individual would. Next, we have the fourth house of Scorpio energy. The fourth house of Scorpio energy is going to be Aquarius. This is why the Scorpio energy is very much about the sense of self, having their own space. Sometimes they're a little bit unique. Sometimes they're going to be a little bit quirky. If you really get to the root of a Scorpionic person, you will see that they are very unique and quirky and very much about their individualism and being very separate from the crowd, doing their own thing. Okay, they're looking for this space. So the fourth house of a Scorpio person is Aquarius on that emotional level within the Scorpio. We're still not applying it to any of the placements just yet. We're just exploring why Scorpio operates the way that it does, no matter where you guys have it in your chart. Even if you guys are a Scorpio dominant person or even a Scorpio stellium, you're going to be operating like this energy. So the heart of a Scorpio, okay, the internal emotional world, Scorpionic person is Aquarius. They want their sense of space. They want their freedom. This is why you'll see a lot of the time Scorpio energy is very much connected to cats, for example, or they act like a cat, or you might feel like they act or behave like cats. They want their own space, okay? You kind of have to be very wary how you're going to approach this person. You can't invade their personal space. It's all about boundaries as well. For these individuals, this is something that you guys are mastering as well. These are all things that we can learn from cats and how cats operate. And this is why when we have that Aquarius 4th house, the internal world of a Scorpio is looking for that space, the ability to maintain the self, the ability to maintain the freedom. This is why it's a complex energy, because we'll get to the 7th house in just a second when it comes to your guys' relationships. But this is what you guys are seeking on that soul level. The internal world of this energy is looking for the space, the freedom, the ability to fully express the self, the ability to be themselves, the ability to be unique, a little bit out of the box, a little bit quirky. That's basically what's happening with the 4th house being in Aquarius. Next, the 5th house of a Scorpio energy is going to be in Pisces. This is where their idealism comes through when it comes to their relationships, and a little bit of a struggle when it comes to their relationships as well, because having Pisces in the 5th house, you are now dreaming of this ideal type of relationship. When it comes to love, dating, and relationships, which is the 5th house, you might not be very lighthearted when it comes to this area, because you guys want this ideal story. You guys want this ideal love story. For example, it's this movie type of love that you guys are seeking. So casual dating does not work with Scorpios for this reason. The Pisces in the 5th house, you guys are seeking this ideal type of situation and dynamic. And sometimes you guys can idealize a person as well. That's the struggle with Pisces in the 5th house as well. They can idealize somebody or someone that they feel like they have created this connection with because of that Pisces in the 5th house energy. Scorpio can be very gifted when it comes to the area of creativity because of the Pisces in the 5th house. So for you guys having the Pisces energy in your 5th house, you guys are going to be very, let's say, intuitive when it comes to your creative expression. You guys can be very romantic when it comes to your creative expression. This could be an energy of someone who writes romance novels. Let's say the dreams you guys have and aspirations of this love story and this ideal type of situation, you guys can express it in some sort of creative realm. That's that Pisces in the 5th house energy for the Scorpio energy. Next, we have 6th house occupied by Aries. So 6th house is the area of health, healing, and being of service. It's also the area of routines. Aries is very independent. So this is probably why a lot of the time Scorpio energy wants to be independent when it comes to their routines. They're not necessarily a team player. For example, they're going to be the type of person who wants to operate on their own, do their own thing. They're not so much about group projects, for example, because of this Aries energy and the routine energy. They might not even necessarily fit into, let's say, a traditional type of routine, for example, because of the Aries energy in here. The Aries energy wants to be their own person, do their own thing, maybe be a manager, maybe be a leader, maybe be a boss. Maybe in that case, you guys can create your own routine, but it's kind of like the energy of creating your own routine for yourself is really what that is. Because it also is the area of health, healing, and being of service, you guys want to be the ones who create this on your own, because Aries, again, is an independent energy. So you guys want to be the ones who create these things on your own. Again, not so much a team player type of energy. The Scorpionic energy is kind of like a lone wolf type of energy. And potentially this could be the reason why, because that 6th house, which could even be your colleagues and so on and so forth, you guys might not really want to mix with too many people because you want your own sense of self, doing your own thing. You guys might want to get the recognition for yourselves that you guys were the ones that created this, or you guys were the ones that started this. That's that Aries energy in the 6th house. Now, this is where all of the possessive energy comes from for the Scorpionic energy. It's the Taurus energy in the 7th house. So for any Scorpio energy, anywhere you have it in your chart, the possessiveness aspect of Scorpio comes from the Scorpionic energy having the 7th house. So we're doing the inception thing once again within Scorpio. The 7th house of Scorpio is going to be Taurus. This is why Scorpio energy is possessive. The Scorpio energy is going to look at its relationships more so as possessions, as an extension of themselves. This might be something that you guys might have to transmute within yourselves, because this can really go into an intense energy, absolutely. But this is where the root of the possessiveness of the Scorpio comes from. It's from that 7th house being in Taurus. Now, if we apply this, let's say in your natal charts, what I was mentioning earlier, you guys can look at, let's say, the moon. Let's say you have a Scorpio moon. Within the Scorpio moon, the 7th house of this energy is operating as a Taurus. So when it comes to your emotional world, when you guys open up to someone, you guys become possessive of this person because of this reason. I hope that that makes sense. Let's say it's in your Venus. Because it's in your Venus, when it comes to your overall relationships, because Scorpio is operating with that 7th house energy as Taurus, you guys are possessive of your relationships. Let's say it's in your Mars. So you guys have Scorpio Mars, for example. Within Scorpio Mars, it could be of your sexual partners. You guys can be very possessive of these people. Because again, the 7th house is operating as Taurus behind the scenes. It's all happening energetically behind the scenes, basically how Scorpio energy is operating. It could also be, let's say, of your own personal projects. Let's say it's Mars energy and Scorpio. You guys can be very possessive of something you guys have created, some sort of goal, some sort of ambition, because the energy is operating as Taurus in the 7th house behind the scenes. I really hope you guys are following. That is the overall idea. This is why Scorpio is possessive. This is why Scorpio has a hard time letting go of people, because Taurus energy is fixed, because it's in the 7th house. Taurus in the 7th house is very possessive, very much holding on to people, relationships, friendships, romantic relationships, because it's operating as Taurus in the 7th house. Now, Gemini in the 8th house. This is where it gets interesting because the 8th house can actually tell us a lot. Okay, the 8th house is sex, death, rebirth, joint finances, taxes, and the occult. Now, I could literally sit here for an hour going into a deep explanation of the 8th house and how the Gemini energy operating in the 8th house could operate, but I'll give you guys a brief synopsis so you guys can kind of understand how this works, and then you guys can apply it into your everyday lives. So the 8th house is our shadow self. So Scorpios might attract a lot of Geminis into their life because Geminis could be showing Scorpios their shadow self or something that maybe they might have to integrate, for example. So what are some shadow traits of Gemini? Gemini can be flaky. Gemini can be inconsistent. Gemini might not necessarily be dependable. This is literally the opposite energy to Scorpio energy. Scorpio is fixed. Gemini is mutable. So if you guys, let's say, have a lot of Geminis coming into your lives and you guys are Scorpio people, these Gemini people are showing you, let's say, their shadow traits, for example. Maybe these traits are within you, or maybe you guys are just meant to have this energy come to your awareness that you guys just do not mesh well with this type of energy. For example, you guys being fixed, you guys being consistent, you guys being loyal, for example. Gemini is very much flighty, is really what that is. Absolutely, it could manifest in this way. If we look at the 8th house, for example, as, let's say, sexual energy, this is where the Scorpionic energy can come through with their variety, for example, when it comes to their own sexual energy. I'm not going to go too much in depth in this video, but you guys can use your imagination for that. So the Gemini energy could be expressed in this way as well. The 8th house energy could also be other people's money, other people's resources. So maybe you guys go about achieving these or receiving these in a Gemini type of way. Maybe you guys use your words, maybe you guys are charming, maybe you guys befriend these people to kind of get that money that you guys are looking for from other people. Just a random example, but you guys can kind of do this for yourselves and play around with this energy to see, once again, how's that 8th house energy within Scorpio expressing itself and how can that apply to you guys as well. The 9th house within Scorpio energy is going to be Cancer. So Scorpios are learning from Cancerian types of people. You guys are learning from Cancer types of people. It doesn't mean it's going to be people who have Cancer in their charts, although it could be. It could just be people who exhibit Cancerian types of traits. Nurturing, for example. It could be people who are super caring, because Scorpio energy can sometimes be cold, for example. I'm sure you guys have heard that before. So you guys are learning from Cancers, for example, how to be a little bit more emotionally open, for example, or getting in tune with the vulnerability, or getting in tune even with your nurturing side, for example. So this is what you guys can learn, let's say, from Cancer energy occupying your 9th house. Now, if we look at the 10th house for Scorpio, this is why Scorpio energies, I find personally, actually have more pride than Leo people. We'll have to explore Leo energy another time. But within Scorpio, the 10th house of Scorpio, the way Scorpios are always going to portray themselves to the public, to the world, even on social media, is going to be Leo-esque. So these people are always going to kind of show themselves maybe having the best time, or just like they always have this like sense of pride, or it's like you feel like they know things, or it's like they have this confidence about them. That's that 10th house that the Scorpio energy is kind of showing to the world, is really what that is. Because the 10th house, yes, it can be career, absolutely, the 10th house always, but usually it's more so the vibe of the career. So Scorpios could be interested in Leo types of careers, for example, where you're expressing yourself creatively, where you guys might be seen. Scorpio wants to be seen. This is what's happening with Scorpio energy. Even though it's a hidden energy, it could be operating behind the scenes, it still wants to actually be seen. Okay, that's kind of something that's happening with Scorpionic energy, whether they admit it to themselves or not. It's basically the 10th house of Scorpio is Leo. You guys want to be seen, and you guys need to be working in some sort of field where you guys are being seen. Now, using everything that we've learned about Scorpio energy up until this point, those could be some things that you guys are expressing out there toward the world. But overall, because it is Leo, you're not going to see this energy kind of give away, let's say, their pride or just like ego, in the sense where it's like you're not really going to see them be the types of people who are crying, let's say, on camera. Very rarely. That's more like a Cancerian type of thing, I find, or even Pisces energy. But Scorpio energy, they don't want to show this. If they do show this, it's going to be through, let's say, acting, for example, because they're not directly being vulnerable with you. They're hiding behind the character. So they can always kind of be like, this wasn't me, it was the character that was expressing, let's say, you know, that sad moment or that extremely vulnerable moment. They're kind of hiding behind this energy, but they're still getting to express basically what was going on within them. This is why you'll see a lot of actors have a lot of Scorpio energy in their chart. Obviously, we have the whole theme of power and control, which just goes hand in hand with the Scorpionic energy overall, because it is Leo. They want to appear this way, like the king or the queen of the castle. When we see kings or queens, they're very stoic. They present themselves in a certain type of way. You don't see them having any sort of outbursts or doing any sort of other types of things, for example. We can apply it in this way. Obviously, you guys can kind of explore for yourselves to see how else this energy can manifest. but that's the overall idea for Scorpio. This is why Scorpio might kind of show off sometimes, let's say on social media, for example, or just like show certain things about themselves that they're very proud of because of that Leo 10th house energy that's operating behind the scenes. And once again, back to the actors, you will see a lot of actors and actresses have Scorpio somewhere basically taking place, especially within their personal planets for these reasons that I have mentioned. That's the 10th house of Scorpio. Now, the 11th house of Scorpio is going to be Virgo. The 11th house are friendships. It's also going to be ideas, innovations, philanthropy, humanitarianism. So because Virgo is in here, this is why Scorpios are very, very critical when it comes to their friendships. They hold their friendships to this high standard, or this high level is really what that is. They also hold themselves to this high standard and this high level. So because they feel like they can come to these friendships as a perfect version of themselves, or like get as close to perfection as possible, they expect that out of people as well. So this is why, because they can be critical, okay, whether you guys want to admit it or not, this is what's happening with the energy within, because the energy is seeking some sort of perfection. Let's say when people kind of step outside of this level of perfection that maybe they are looking for in friendships, or just like kind of holding people up to this high standard, this is why they cut them off quickly, because these people aren't achieving this perceived level of perfection that Scorpio feels like they should be able to achieve, because they have this happening within themselves when it comes to their friendships as well. This is kind of where this cutting off energy comes through. This is sometimes somewhere where you guys might have to learn to kind of maybe negotiate within yourselves and see. Obviously, there are the non-negotiables with Scorpionic energy that are just like lying and betrayal and everything that we know. That's just like the intense version where Scorpio is going to cut the person off immediately. Absolutely, okay, because all of that's connected to disrespect, and a lot of the time the disrespect is connected to time being wasted and so on and so forth. That's a Capricorn 3rd house, so it could be connected to this as well. But sometimes people make mistakes. For example, like let's say someone showed up late, maybe it was a one-time type of thing. So sometimes Scorpio might throughout time start to kind of have a little bit more leniency, because they might see that they might be a little bit too critical when it comes to their friendships and kind of holding people up to too high of a standard when it comes to their friendships. And this is why sometimes Scorpios might just spend a lot of time on their own because of this Virgo in the 11th house energy is really what that is. So that's something that could be taking place in the area of friendships. Now, when it comes to innovations, super smart. Okay, this is where the intelligence comes through, where you guys can think of new innovations, or you guys can kind of see, because it's that critical energy, you guys can kind of see all the gaps within society, or things that are just like very obvious to you guys. Let's say it might not necessarily be obvious to the next person, because you guys have that Virgo energy, okay, where you guys are able to see like all the issues within society. And again, you guys might be critical, but also by being critical in this area, you guys might also come up with new ideas, let's say, or innovations or technologies to basically help the collective overall. So that's Virgo in the 11th house for the energy of Scorpio. Now, let's look at the 12th house of Scorpio. 12th house of Scorpio is Libra. So the soul of Scorpio is going to be Libra, basically is what's taking place here. This is why Scorpio is all about relationships, and this is why relationships are very important to them. Now, understanding Scorpio energy from the lens of the 12th house of Libra, the 12th house of Libra can be a lot of things. It can be the unconscious, it can be ways that you guys unconsciously behave, it could be those unconscious desires or dreams, or the soul energy like I just mentioned just now as well. So within Scorpio, there is this energy of Libra. This is why relationships are super important to Scorpio, because within the Scorpionic energy, they are seeking the one. It's really what that is, because Libra is always seeking the one. So Scorpio energy is looking for the one, for the ideal partner, for the ideal person, that mind, body, spirit connection, because the soul of Scorpio is actually going to be Libra. Now, within yourselves, maybe there's going to be certain shadow traits that you guys might have to integrate that are Libra-esque, which is sometimes maybe giving too many people a chance. For example, although Scorpio is really psychic and intuitive, as you guys grow and as you guys start to trust more and more of this intuition, you guys might not necessarily be dealing with like giving too many people opportunities and so on and so forth. That could even be maybe how you guys end up in situations where you guys get betrayed, for example, and the Scorpio energy gets strengthened, for example, because maybe you guys have given too many people opportunities because of that 12th house energy in Libra. And this could be in all of your relationships as well. This could also be where the codependency with Scorpio comes from as well. The fear of being alone, for example, that you guys might have to integrate and transmute within the self because of the 12th house of Libra. Obviously, I could go more in depth. I could talk about this probably for an entire day if we really analyze the Scorpionic energy. I just kind of wanted to put this video out there to give you guys an overall idea of how energies work and how energies operate and kind of what's happening behind the scenes of a particular energy. You guys can do this for any other sign as well to understand how the sign is actually operating. Now, with that being said, what I was mentioning earlier as well, I kind of talked about it when we talked about the 7th house of Scorpio being Taurus. You guys can apply all of this now to any of the placements that you guys have. So let's say you guys have Moon in Scorpio, okay? To understand Moon in Scorpio even deeper, you go through all of these energies. Moon in Scorpio is operating with the third house energy of being Capricorn, so kind of thinks like a Capricorn person, wants the business, wants the money, wants the gains, wants the wealth. That's what's going to be happening on that soul level for the person. This is what they're seeking. Also, at the same time, with the Moon energy, you have the 4th house Scorpio energy taking place of Aquarius. So even though it's like it could be possessive and so on and so forth, it still needs a space. That's kind of what's happening. So to understand how the emotional world, let's say if someone is operating, you would look at it being in Scorpio, yes, and then you look at even deeper of how Scorpio energy actually operates through all of these houses that I just gave you guys as an example. Same thing, let's say you guys have it in your Mercury, it's going to be how the person thinks, it's going to be how the person expresses themselves and communicates. If it is in the Venus, it could be how the person makes money, how they go about making money, where they get the money from. Although with a Venus and Scorpio, you'll never know. You'll never know what's going on behind the scenes with a Venus and Scorpio. It could be who they're dating and so on and so forth. But again, Venus and Scorpio, usually you won't know what's going on with them. They're gonna very much keep this area hidden and private is really what that is. And that could be, once again, exploring it from the 12th house and Libra perspective. 12th house is hidden. So they could be very much keeping their relationships hidden for this reason. I hope you guys are following, and I hope that this makes sense, because it's kind of like Inception. We look at the placement, Moon, Venus, Sun, so on and so forth, and then we look at the sign, and then we go deeper into the sign, kind of like Inception, to see how is that sign actually operating. So you guys can do this for yourselves to learn a little bit more about yourselves. I do hope you guys enjoyed my video on a deeper look at Scorpionic energy and why it might be operating the way that it does. If you did, please do like, share, and subscribe, and I hope you all have a beautiful rest of the day.